So I have this ritual at the end of each day. Oh, it's behind a cloud. But I get to go out in the beautiful backyard, and the sun is setting right there. And it's behind a cloud. It's a big feeling being out here. On the one hand, it's glorious and expansive. It's 12 acres. I rent here, I don't own. There's another house over there where the landlord's parents live. And over on this side, there's a gentleman who just got diagnosed with some really tough stuff. And within a month, he's, they have death with dignity here in New Mexico, and he's going to complete his life. So when I come out here, I remember to be really, really grateful for life. And I often imagine every moment being so important. So, ooh, there's a bunny rabbit right there. Hello, bunny rabbit. Every moment being so precious when you know the end is near, and yet none of us know when the end is near. And we're about to go into a podcast with the incredible Pearly, and she had a near-death experience and made it through it, and it awakened so many more of her incredible superpowers, of which I've been blessed. Before she came on the podcast, she provided a session, and I've had a few follow-up ones as well. She's very talented going into seeing what's going on in a multidimensional way. So you're going to really enjoy this conversation. I really recommend her. She's amazing. And it just this moment reminds me, Pearly reminds me, my neighbor reminds me that every moment is a gift. And the more present we can be, the more that we can stay in our body and feel our feelings, the more we can be grateful, the more we can see challenges as gifts, the more we can savor this existence. So the sun is a little bit trying to come through there. Isn't it gorgeous? All right, enjoy Pearly. Beautiful sister, take a breath with me. Oh, when was the last time you felt really grounded in your body, still in your mind, truly in love with yourself? Not fixing yourself, not striving to be different, just loving your sweet self exactly as you are. I know you've probably been strong for everybody else, yet this is your moment now, an invitation to be there for you. To say yes to not just the bare minimum, but your real needs, to listen to the truth of your body, to slow down and hear the deepest truth of your heart, to face what you've been perhaps avoiding so that you can embody your authentic feminine power. And you don't have to do this alone. Like so many others before you, we can partner in divine sisterhood. The divine feminine way is to collaborate, to open our hearts together into the glorious, great unknown, the mystery. So I invite you to go to allanapratt.com/connect and book a call with me today. We will get through any shadow to the light of your fullest glory together. Promise. Welcome to Intimate Conversations, Season 14, Dark Night to Divine Light, because we both know intimacy is an inside job. Hello and welcome to another episode of Intimate Conversations, Season 14, From Dark Night to Divine Light. And I have the distinct pleasure of a new friend, a new mentor. I just had an incredible private session with her before this this podcast, the amazing Pearly Montagu. You may have seen her as a TEDx speaker. She's a renowned healer with an extraordinary gift, and she's worked with thought leaders such as Zach Bush and Dr. Nasha Winters. And here's what happened. Following a profound near-death experience, Pearly discovered a rare form of synesthesia. Am I saying this right, my love?
Synesthesia. It's a funny word.
Synesthesia. And this is an ability to see physical and emotional trauma within the body in vivid colors and structures, disrupting how physiology and biology occurs. And the combination of this unique gift of sight, combined with her subsequent training in energy healing modalities, including craniosacral therapy and reflexology, Pearly's developed an innovative, somatic, and energetic approach that supports the release of trauma held in the body, encouraging regulation of the nervous system and healthy biological function, which has made her a sought-after and beloved healer. And she supports clients around the world, both in Ibiza and online. And she has a very generous offer that I'm going to put, excuse me, in the show notes as well, so that you can have the experience of having a one-on-one session with this incredible woman. You can also learn more about her website at manderly.org. That'll also be in the show notes. And I think it was some networking group we were in, and we got connected, and someone said, oh, the two of you definitely need to meet. And my staff was so generous that they said, oh, you want to, or you're so generous, you want to give me a taste of what you do before we actually get on live. Wow, what an honor to know you, love you, receive your gifts, and now share you with my community. Thank you for being here.
Oh, what a kind invitation. So much. I love how the city of life, of how we're always connected to people who are on our own resonance, and meeting people who are like-minded souls. And yeah, I remember chatting to someone, I can't remember who either, who said, you two have to connect. You're really aligned. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you. It's a privilege and an honor.
Yeah, thank you. It's funny because quite often my intuition will say, go here. It'll make no sense. But then I'll meet somebody incredible. I'm like, oh, that's what you wanted. Okay, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah. I have a rule that came from my never Pearl, who I was named after, which was never miss a party, because you'll never know who you might not meet. And the number of times I've gone to places, and then I love how one door opens because you meet someone, becomes a full dear friend, and then, or it's maybe like more of a business project. But I love how when you track how things happen and the number of doors that would have had to close or open for things to align and for you to be here. And that's always kind of blows my mind when you start to play with sort of the intelligence that's sitting behind our lives.
This is a beautiful way of bridging to your near-death experience, because indeed, so many factors that we'll never understand are supporting and weaving and guiding to this place of feeling held by the universe. But if we don't have that feeling of being held by the universe, if there still is unresolved trauma, if we can't rest, if our soul can't rest in our body, being on the planet can be really scary. So I'm curious, like the pre-Pearly, pre-accident, like who were you? What were you up to in the world? And how did this near-death experience like literally change the trajectory of your soul's journey?
It's really funny you say that, and it reminds me of a friend who I've been friends with for probably about 8 or 9 years. And it's like, it's kind of probably that's the time in my life where I went through such a fast and rapid and pretty significant transition. And I remember her saying to me, God, you've changed. In my 20s, I was a lot more flighty and a lot more, if that's a slightly more English word, but it's like just not so steady, not so calm, not so still in terms of inside. And I wasn't meditating at that time in my life. And I guess probably a little bit more shallow. And I just hadn't discovered the spiritual side to life. And I just didn't. I remember going to see my meditation teacher, or it was the first time I sat with him, but my boyfriend at the time said to me, do you want to come and do a Vipassana, which is 7 days in silence? It's noble silence. And for your audience who I'm sure already know, but Vipassana, the essence of a Vipassana is you do the noble silence to quieten the mind and to quieten the ego, but it's about finding stability in your instability. And it's deeply profound and such a beautiful thing I would offer and encourage anyone to do, even though it does take maybe a sprinkle of courage, but definitely something that's amazing to do. But I remember during that time, the meditation teacher said to me, or said to the group, he said, just look outside in nature and look at how nature moves in perfect harmony from winter to spring to summer to autumn, and look at the intelligence that sits behind our lives. And it was the first time someone had presented that just view, if you like. And it was such an aha moment. And basically after that, I meditated a little bit afterwards, but it was funny. I sort of said to myself, gosh, if anything ever really bad happened in my life, this is where I would come. I would come and sit with, he's called Bergs. And I would have a place that I could just, he creates such an amazing platform with his tools that he teaches you, that you are then able to process your stuff. Anyway, and then not long after, probably within about a year, and I also at that time, I was in a corporate finance job. It was like masculine, very full on, very high pressure. I was earning a lot of money, and it was kind of that classic thing of health and wellness. And wellness. And so it was like I was earning quite a lot of money, but it just I really wasn't that well in my body, and I just wasn't that happy. And then it was really interesting. I sort of was on this path where I was like drinking a lot, and I was eating pretty unhealthy food and like kind of like a lobster red wine diet. And then I went from like leaving that job, earning like significantly less, just being so much happy. And I just went and volunteered in a floating garden in London just to reconnect with the earth. And it just made me so much happier. And then I just went vegan. And actually, interestingly, at that time, I had polycystic ovaries. My tummy was always bloated. My skin was really bad. I couldn't manage my weight. I had sinusitis. Like there was just all these things that I just didn't really connect with being like really not great and not really on a healthy. I think when you're 25, mid-20s, invincible. And then in like basically the same period as like going vegan, I then had this experience of one, just being totally heartbroken from a relationship that ended in a way that just felt deeply dishonoring, with just a huge lack of communication that was such a shock for me. And then I had 6 months of meditating to like meditate through the pain. And then just as I was getting back on my feet and just rebuilding my confidence, I then was in France. So I was coming home from dinner, I was on a boat, and it was full moon. It was so clear. I was so clear at the time. And then we hit a concrete marker in the river that was next to a bridge. And it was just a freak accident and just incredibly surreal. And that was my near-death experience. That was like white light, sort of in this very blissed out space, and then coming back to reality that was far, far from it. And that journey, in many ways, sort of being brought to my knees, and mentally and physically having to just rebuild and figure it out. And my experience was that it's like no one gives you a landscape of like, okay, this is what's happened to you, this is how you get better. Because it wasn't like my face and my legs are quite cut up and bruised, but I didn't have that many like physical injuries. And then what I realized only now, and this is 8 years later, I've only realized in the last year, actually, I had PTSD, because I used to just get the biggest fright from the smallest thing that I knew, if you were coming down the corridor and I could hear you, even when you came down, I would just get the biggest fright. So it's just been so many layers of like understanding my body and like also just like tracking back one thing. But it's like when I also changed my food in terms of from eating animals to not, it was like, it just changes your world, and you just kind of just forces you to think a little bit more about like, what am I doing and what's the impact of that? And I think especially in today's world, it's just like, especially where the younger generation, where ignorance is really a choice, because we have these smartphones which allow and enable like as much or as little education as you want. Obviously the confirmation bias is like a pretty present challenge people need to work through. But yeah, and then I just had this of one foot in front of the other, just trying to learn, just being like pretty disheartened that I was in my 20s and I became one of those huge percentages of people that have back pain, and just kind of made a promise to myself pretty quickly that like I wasn't gonna play the victim. It wasn't gonna be poor me. Like, this is not gonna be my identity. This is not something that defines me. And just, yeah, I guess I think something that's helped me a lot is I've always been very positive, but I've also generated that positivity over a long time of just like little things of like just always being very grateful and always trying to see the silver lining to every dark cloud, which is something I learned from my great granny Pearl, who she's just, I really resonate with her so much. And so it's been, yeah, just so many different iterations of just, and I guess, I mean, I'd love to hear from you, but there's just so many, like, if you're open to the signs from life, then you'll be guided. And it's just like one thing after another of going to places. Like, I don't know if that resonates with you.
For sure. Yes. So you weren't physically cut up as much. So you drowned and then you came back. Is that what happened?
Yeah. So I didn't drown, but I was thrown into the seat in front of me in the boat, and then just blacked out for I'm not quite sure how long. And it was just a pretty surreal experience. And I mean, there weren't that many of us, but everyone was pretty seriously injured. And so it just forced a lot of us to see the world in a different way and just walk a different path.
Yeah.
But what I found was there's like, as I kind of, it probably took me about 4 years to really understand my injuries, and actually realized that probably one of the biggest thing was to my nervous system of like always being on fight or flight mode from that time.
Yeah.
And then I was, during COVID, fast forward a few years, I was in lockdown and I was doing a really stressful job, and I just overcooked my nervous system. And then I started burning out and I started behaving like a crazy person. And I just flying, for anyone who's had their thyroid go overactive, I was just flying into rages. I couldn't sleep. I was losing weight. I was dying every day, which is so far from how I operate and just before or after. Anyway, and then I just needed some time out from my boyfriend at the time, who was just triggering me in a big way, and my parents who just were living together because of COVID, and like lucky enough to be on a farm where I grew up. But it was also, we got to the point of both being like, I don't want to live with you either. So which is normal because I was 29, 30 at that time. Anyway, so during COVID, I was like, okay, I just associated Greek islands with just place just to heal and recalibrate and get back on my feet. And so I, through many twists and turns, and that's where I am today, just on an idyllic little Greek island in Corfu. And life brought me there. And then it was just the next iteration of just finding like different sort of like plant medicines and different sort of like holistic things like craniosacral therapy and bioresonance and acupuncture and just all the stuff that can work just a bit more energetically. And
Yeah.
so that was kind of the next evolution of what for me was the layer of what I needed to heal, and just, yeah. And then being really inspired in the modalities that were so meaningful to me. And so just slowly, bit by bit, just because I have such a thirst for learning, and it feels like for me, and I guess this would also just be such a backbone that we use through your work, which is like, it feels like the biggest privilege in the world when you can help and serve people and give back. It's just like, you just, whenever I have a bad day, it's like, what can I do to help someone else? And then I feel better.
Yes.
But yeah, I do that. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's so much the essence of what you do.
Yeah, we both have been blessed with some crap in the early days, that real challenges in the early days, and how we, it sounds like, have leaned in, done the work, been humbled, grown, and then these capacities start to awaken to be a channel, a vessel, a facilitator, with such, for me, humility for others.
Yeah. I mean, my meditation teacher says an expression which I so love, which is, challenges are your invitation to evolve. And if you can meet them with courage and grace, and then just roll the equanimity of life, of just sort of just learn to be with things. And it's like, I remember just something that so helped me, especially at a time when I felt so broken after a relationship ended, and it was, aversion to things adds fuel to the fire. But if you can meet things with equanimity, that's the water, that's the acceptance. So it's just like, and then that just really changes your experience. So it's like, it's rather like, it's not what you have, but it's how you see it. Totally. And that's your filter. And then that's the experience of like, and like, depending on the different bases in your body. And what I mean by bases is like, we have the heart base, we have the sex base, like we have, rather like the chakras, you have bases in your body. And so it's just like, sometimes, and it will make sense perhaps to some of your listeners, but if you look at people who, like, rather like, you might be born with a constitution of an ox, but then it's like, depending on how we choose to live our life and what food and fuel and like our mental diet and our physical diet, it weakens or strengthens the cards that you were given when you were born. So that's how some people can get away with drinking whiskey for so long and they're good, or having like been beaten a lot by a child and they're good and they don't get physically ill and the body doesn't start to break down. And then you have some people who are a lot more fragile and something big might happen to them and it totally floors them. Whereas something huge will happen to someone else. And it's like, I'm good. I'm going to be okay. So I find that really interesting when people, and also I think it's really important to remember that it's not actually complicated. In terms of like the little steps and tools that we can do every day. And it's also those unsexy things that no one really wants to hear about that we can do every day. And we can obviously happy to dive into that, but that will be those things that will carry you in terms of building that foundation so that when you can learn the experience of life so that it doesn't shake.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it completely does. And I do want to go, sometimes it's an unconscious competence for me until we have these kind of conversations about these small, as you said, unsexy, simple things that actually do build that inner stillness, that foundation within. And the practice is, as you said, the challenges are the invitation to evolve and learn these grounding, centering skills. I want to get there in a second. I'm still curious how your ability, and say the word again for me. I'm having trouble saying it.
So it's a funny word. It's synesthesia.
Synesthesia. So anesthesia. My sister's an anesthesiologist. So she puts
no idea what that is.
She puts them under to have an operation, or she puts them under, or like when they like you have an epidural. You know. That kind of thing. But tell me how on this path of rebuilding yourself, I'm going to say from the inside out, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, how did this capacity come online? And do you feel it's connected to you slowing down, being humbled, doing the unsexy work, and then this gift. How did it all unfold?
I think there's a few different layers there, but I think one of them is there's a prayer that I've said for probably about 10 years, not every day, but it's a prayer that I've consistently said, which is, God, angels, please use me. And I think there's been so many things in my life that I could down to being pure coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence. And I always grown up to believe from my mother that we all have a guardian angel that looks after us, because my brothers and I have all had like close calls, and it just felt like someone was there.
Nice.
And so I've always kind of grown up to believe in that. And that's what resonates to me. Obviously, I don't know that to be true, but it feels right. Yeah. And so I guess I've always, the prayer that I've said for so long, which is like, God, angels, please use me. Yeah. And now, because I work in a lot more very like structured supporting people with like trauma or emotional physical pain, then I will, and just in a very active way, the prayers when I open the space, it's like, God, angels, please use me as a vessel so that I can serve. Yeah. And so I've been calling in to do what I do. And I think the other thing that's interesting, which is, and you probably know many people also who are in some form channels, but like what I do, it comes through me and not from me. And it comes but it's not knowledge that I knew before connecting to that person's field and calling in help, calling in their guides, my guides. And then, yeah, there's different, like Archangel Michael, who's the angel of protection, or Gabriel, who's the angel of bright light. And so there's just no way I could do what I do when I have like really, not always, but like I have a lot of like profound results of like helping people with their hearing coming back, or their smell coming back, or like just so many different things of people being in like almost 10 out of 10 back pain, and by the end of the session the pain's gone. It's like there's just absolutely no way that's me doing it. Like I think it's so important for anyone that's on a health journey to remember and keep connecting to your body has such an extraordinary ability to heal, and just so much light that's in every cell. And it's rather like, if you look at Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, extraordinary, and he's very research-based with like scientists and studies, but he's not doing anything externally in the same way that I do, but he's like working internally to change the state of the body and the internal state. And that's when the body can come forward to heal. And it's just like, there's kind of nothing new really under the sun. But if you look at like Osho, who was considered one of the great Indian teachers of his time, where it's like you think and act and believe as if it is the reality that you want. And after a while, like the body starts to, like the subconscious starts to take that on. And I remember when I started to learn about neurolinguistic programming and just the power of the mind, which is obviously today quite mainstream manifesting, that I think a lot of people are aware of. But it's like we have such a capacity, and just think of the placebo effect, which is it's like the body that follows the mind. But if you look at, so Carl Jung was one of the great minds of his time in terms of psychology, and he said the mind is like an iceberg. So you have like the 1/5 that's above the water, that's your conscious. And then you have the 4/5, that's the subconscious, that's the computer, the controls, the desktop. It's not the monitor, it's the desktop. And so, for example, in a fun way, I find the easiest way to understand, which is if I would say to you, what's 2 times 2? We would both say 4 because it's an automated response. It's in our subconscious. But if we were to say, okay, what's 14 times 27? We'd both have to sit here and think about it because it's not in our conscious mind. So like what Osho says, what Joe Dispenza says, the essence of how I work, is that you offer the body a reframe, which is like, so it's like if a client will say to me, like, I always have a neck pain. And it's like, hang on a sec, wait, let's just like try and get away from that identity that you're just programming you with, which is like, what about, I'm grateful that I'm just on a journey at the moment, supporting my upper body to come back into balance. And then you're saying the same thing, but in a different way. Or it's like, I'm so grateful that my body and my immune system, every day it's coming into alignment and it's full of light day by day. In every way, it's getting stronger and stronger. And so just with each person, you can just sometimes offer, because we've all been there. And I've been at times when my back, I was just in this loop of like, that was my whole thing of like, my back hurts. I've got a bad back. And even despite all of the learnings that I have and experience and knowledge, I still like fell into this loop just because for the first time ever, I was in chronic pain after the accident experience that I had.
Yeah.
And actually what was so fascinating was, in terms of numerology, so names and numbers have meaning. And I'm just starting to train in numerology at the moment, but we run in 7-year cycles. So if you ever think of like a 7-year itch in a relationship, or like if you, and it's so interesting when you hear of like couples who separate, I always ask, how long were you together? And so often it's around the 7-year mark, 7, 14, 21. But it's so fascinating. But when my back like properly started to deteriorate, and I understood, because we have 2 types of understandings, and one is intellectual and one is experiential. And when someone said to me before, is like, I have chronic pain, there was just no experiential understanding. And then I was in it. And it was like 7 years to the month from my accident. And my body just started to like just fall apart. And it was just, it was super interesting. It was like the first time I properly started to cry about the experience and just cry about just everything that I had been through. But I don't know if any of that resonates with you.
No, it totally does. And I'm fascinated by your, it's very similar to me actually, Pearly. I have mastery in an area and I have so much to learn, such a student, such a like hot mess, I'll call myself, right? And it's these two superpowers that are weaving, and I'm hearing you have these incredible capacities. I mean, my neck doesn't hurt. We had our session. I woke up the next day, my neck doesn't hurt. Some pain in the neck is gone. Emotionally, mentally, physically, right? It's all connected. So, and that's, thank you so much for that. And I'm hearing you are still a student on your journey of it being 7 years till you actually address the PTSD that's in there and the feeling, which to me makes you so relatable. I love my vulnerability and transparency, and it's what my clients trust about me. I don't have it all figured out. I'm a channel or a facilitator of this energy. I'm not doing anything. It's the greatest privilege and honor. And I always say, I'm just like a couple steps ahead, but no better. And whatever I learn, I pass right along to you. And it's so we rise together. We grow together. So I really appreciate that you are still like unwinding the PTSD or the back pain, and then you just give even more. You're an even greater channel for even more light to come through you for others. So
I love that. And I think it's such a strength, which is all like, I've been very lucky with, I guess, some of the friends and work projects that I've been involved in, just to be connected to some really significant like CEOs who run at a pretty globally influential level. And the strongest CEOs that you meet, it's like they all have a story of like they nearly failed. The business had massive problems.
Right.
And so interestingly, those really big CEOs can be so humble because they know the pain of what it takes to build. And that everyone has those stories behind closed doors of like behind every success, there's just like a ton of failures. But if you like just keep preaching, and I think probably one of my strengths and amidst many flaws, many flaws, is like a childlike curiosity to grow and to always try and learn, and always like I'm so willing to look at my shadow and just be like, okay, where did I get that wrong? Like I remember I had a beautiful relationship for many years, and like one of our strengths, I think, was always as a couple, it was like, okay, where's my biggest shadow? Like, what do you think that I should be working on? So it's like you're constantly softening the edges, and then it's just like, and then it's like it just puts you on this really beautiful path of like continuing peeling back the layers, which I think can ultimately make a really healthy constellation. And like with my beloved, we're very much sort of on a tantra path, which is also super beautiful because it's about, and I think with the word tantra, a lot of people misunderstand. And it's like, but for me, tantra, it's about intimacy and connection.
Yeah.
And so it's like living with ritual and ceremony and having like that deep knowing commitment to working on yourself. And then also together, just like peeling through the layers of like, there's that wonderful meditation, which I think came from Osho, which is like, who are you? Who are you? And it's just like, I'm a child of the divine. And I came not through my mother, but I'm not from my mother, but I came through her. And so it's just like, keep just working through the layers. And it's just so fascinating. And that's how I think how a long-term relationship, in my experience, you can never get bored because it's constantly changing and you're evolving. And then through ritual and ceremony, you have this like beautiful opportunity with like just so many different tools of like just honoring someone in such a beautiful, loving way of just like being really present and really still, which is, I think, also what is the gift that I'm able to really bring with my clients. It's like I can be so present with them. And just I think with a beloved or a lover or a client, it's just like if you can hold people in that safe space and just make them feel witnessed and seen, there's just like such an opportunity for opening, or such an opportunity because so many people haven't had that experience as a child of being held in that safe space or held in that unconditional love. So I think, and that was, I don't know, that was perhaps my journey. I don't know if that's something that speaks to you.
Oh, well, it doesn't. It doesn't. Well, it does. But I haven't chosen. So I'll back up. So the ability to be so present and be that divine mother, divine father energy with someone is the blessing I get to have with my clients. And I can literally, and my facilitators with me, like they are providing, or I am providing that protection, that presence, that safety, that understanding, being seen and heard, like in my nervous system, clunk, clunk, clunk. It just, and then it rests into home. So I think that's why maybe one of the reasons why I work so much, because I love it. I love being able to be so intimate and connected with people into oneness and wholeness. When it comes to relationships, I have yet to attract a partner who will do this beautiful tantric work with me. I would choose, and I, I've studied a lot about imago theory and how these these incomplete loops, we are attracted to them, the familiar qualities as well, but the incomplete loop. So I think I've married mom and dad tons of times. Well, I've been married twice, and different relationships. But I go to different teacher trainings where everyone is my brother and sister. It's a clean container, no dating, but we get to practice bumping up against these incomplete wounds and having someone who's committed and is sitting there, as you said, with presence, and it integrates right in the moment. So the next phase would be for me attracting a partner who does that with me long term, and that's what's coming.
So I would also just hold up a sort of a reality sort of check, which is for anyone that feels called to go on a tantra path. Like I was recently at a tantra retreat run by Sarita, who's this amazing tantra essence. Like she was in Osho's ashram for many, many years and kind of learned under his lineage. Yeah. And you would think if you go to a tantra retreat in Bali, it would all be like delicious and rosy and just beautiful lovemaking or whatever. But it was actually really hard because if you go on the tantra path, you basically commit to doing the work. And the commitment to doing the work is basically sorting out your own childhood stuff, of which we all have. Because that ultimately is what comes up in a relationship. And that is what gets triggered. And so we did these different workshops. Like there was an amazing Gestalt therapy workshop that we did where the easiest way let me see if I can explain it in an easy way. So you would say, let's say you were my partner, and I would say, you weren't actually like in the workshop, but I was talking about you as my partner. So I would say, my partner isn't always honest, and my partner isn't always reliable. And then you basically sit on different cushions, which allows you to basically be a channel, and you essentially turn things around. But then once you've completed the exercise, the final piece of that is actually it's turned around on you. So you would ultimately realize that your projection on someone else is your own. So it's that and this is just an example, because these are not my wounds, this is not my story, but like I would say I'm not trustworthy. If I say my partner, I don't trust you, it's like I don't trust.
Correct.
I have trust issues.
Where am I not honest?
Yeah. Or like he's not clear. My partner isn't clear and like about what he's doing, and then it's just like, actually I'm not clear, I don't have a lack of clarity. And so it just gives you such an amazing awareness to realize like the projections that are going on, and to just basically you own your own shit. But what was so interesting with my beloved was like, it was actually really hard for us, because all this stuff was coming up from when I was a child, and all this like we like really emotionally went through the ringer. So a tantra path is a beautiful path, and I wouldn't choose any other. But to have support, if you do something like that, you have to have support, because it's like it's a really hard path to walk.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a hard path to walk.
I'm remembering back a coach, I was complaining about my first husband. He's a lying, conniving fuckhead or something like that. And he said, great. And where are you, a lying, conniving fuckhead? I said, oh no, I am holier than thou. I am. And he made me look, and this was fascinating. He made me look in every area: physical, mental, emotional, vocational, financial, social, parental, romantic, and sexual. He made me find it in every area of life where I was being that, even according to someone else's point of view. When I did that, it didn't change what my ex had done, but all the charge was gone, because I could own that I was no better. And I really had this profound moment of I am you, you are me, we are one. Oh, that's why we came together to create this child. Oh, that's why we're going through a 13-year custody battle. Oh, that's why all this is like, it was really humbling and also tremendously compassionate. And then I did an ayahuasca ceremony, and he came to me and he just said, why did you leave me? So all these different pieces, as you say, if you're willing to be on the path of growth and really own your stuff, you're gonna sit in many a fire, many a shadow. And I love it, because it's helped me to be more humbled, to, dissolve the arrogance, and also the misunderstanding that we're just here to be happy and get it right and be successful. No, that's not the point. The point is, to me, I believe the point is to experience everything there is: the pain, the pleasure, the known, the unknown, the bliss, the glory. Yeah, all the pieces, without the resistance, with the allowance, and that's made difficult moments rich, and blissful moments lovely. But I'm no longer identifying anywhere near the degree of, well, I must be good enough now. Like any of these misunderstandings when things go well, that somehow I did it.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I think also when you say success, like what does success mean?
Right.
Because it's like, the external parameters of what success looks like. And we all know people who have a lot are incredibly unhappy. So it's like, I remember listening to the founder of Tom's Shoes, and he said, he built a huge company. He then was able to do a ton of philanthropy.
Right.
And he still had that sort of void and that emptiness that comes from inside. And I remember when I was like in the corporate finance world, and I was earning a lot of money, and then I spent a month doing different plant medicines, and I just came to a place of like, one being like financially in theory on paper very vulnerable, and then just being in a place of like feeling so much peace inside, having just done all this internal inner work, and just understanding like all that money that I had, that I just spent in such a sort of free way, like it's just happiness comes from inside. And it's just I mean, that's the game. You know, it's like your mind is like a garden, and anything you focus on will grow. And it's like, I think something that I find quite encouraging is I've sort of had maybe arguably some of the worst things that could happen apart from dying. And actually it was the making of me, but I didn't know that until 7 years down the line, where this like started to see colors and structures in people's bodies, and just went on this pretty wild ethereal journey of just like surrendering and showing up and trusting, and like having a lot of love and support around me, and also going through the painful journey of like being attacked by those who are closest and nearest and dearest to me, and just realizing, okay, like you can love people, but you don't have to like them. And that's like, you can just create your own story and your own narrative, which can be different to the identity that you were born into or that you were given as a child. So I think, especially maybe speaking as a woman, like I think there's a lot of narratives and worlds that we live in, which is like still fundamentally patriarchal. So it's like, for me, I've chosen to move. I grew up in England into a family with quite a big story, and it was just like really important to me to like go to different islands, and I'm lucky enough to have a little home on the Spanish island Ibiza, and then also a little temple space that I'm building in Corfu based on geometry and symbolism and biogeometry. Beautiful. But it's just like I wanted to create my own narrative, and it's just like try and do something also that gives back, and just like I've worked pretty hard to create what I have, but it's just like, if you can share, if you can like give back, if you can ground what you do in a higher purpose, like the universe will always support that. So I think that's why perhaps, despite like more injuries and trauma perhaps than the average person, actually I live this incredibly, like, I'm so lucky with the life that I'm supported to live. But I know that I put in, it's like that a friend of mine has this expression which I love, which is calm as a bitch. She never sleeps, she never forgets, and she always delivers. And the number of times when I look around me and the way that people behave, and they don't have their fingers plugged in the sockets, and they don't understand, and they missed that important memo. And then they just like do bad things, and then bad things happen to them. I'm just like, I'm sure that would make sense to you.
Totally does. I'm like, I want another 3 hours. There's so many parallels in our lives and family and moving and all the things. I think I've almost gone bankrupt twice. I've been in like $250,000 of legal debt during all of that court battle. I tried to build a company based on trying to please others' idea of who they think I could be, lost it all, started. So the idea of having money or success or all of this, and then having so many of the beautiful homecomings have been when there's nothing, no son around, no lover around, no money around, no nothing around. And but I'm here. I found me. I found safety on the inside. I found oneness. It even took like a hurricane in North Carolina, being stranded someplace and taking a sabbatical just to walk the beaches, be grateful that I was alive, and finding that moment when everyone on the outside actually is on the inside. Oh, wow. These moments are
precious,
sweet nectar
precious.
And sacred medicine. Yeah.
Precious. We were just in India recently, thankfully came back just in time to be able to fly. But there was we're lucky enough to be working with a beautiful yoga teacher called Shiva Ray, amazing American, beautiful yoga. I think she was a big yoga bunny in the 80s. Yeah. Anyway, and there's a martial arts that we do every morning it's called Kalaupaya. It's from the south of India. Anyway, so back home in Greece at the moment, it's like you have the mountains of Albania that just are in the distance, and so doing yoga and then martial arts in the morning, and then getting into the sea, and then you start your day, and it's just like the biggest joy, and it's so simple. Paradise. And I know I'm so lucky, but it's also like doesn't cost $1, and we just have been able to practice and just be here and just especially in what's going on in the world, and like it's just like, okay, let's just like ground like in amongst the olive trees and amongst the cypress groves, and just like just connect, just like reconnect to nature, just amidst all that craziness, because it will always bring you back. into
Yeah.
harmony.
Thank you. I mean, yes, you say lucky, but also sacredly disciplined. If I don't do this, I can't be used by God and the angels, is really what it comes down to. So thank you for that, and the humble self-worth to let yourself have that, to be full, to be open, to be a channel, to be all that you can be. I always say, like, the roots, deeper roots, higher shoots, right? If we yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe we can even complete with some of these unsexy. Well, it's pretty sexy doing yoga and martial arts and swimming in the ocean with your lover. That's pretty sexy. But these just a few disciplines that we can leave the viewers and listeners with that will actually, small steps can. If it's a ship, you just turn the wheel 1 degree. By the end of the year, you're in a different country, like a different
Yeah.
place. Like if you do this every day, things
Yeah.
will shift for people.
Yeah, I love that idea of like, yeah, if you set off from the UK and you have your 1 degree off, you miss the continent.
Yes,
Such
exactly.
It's such a great analogy. So to keep it really simple, because it really doesn't need to be complicated. So one of the things that I think has carried me such a long way is gratitude. So, and please, like, I know lots of people can roll your eyes at gratitude, but it's like there's so much neuroscience that's also coming out. Andrew Huberman talks about in a really interesting way. But the first thing in the morning when I'm alone or with my beloved, it's like the first thing we'll say is to each other is like, what are you grateful for?
Yeah.
And it's bigger picture things in your life, to have a safe home, to have love and support around you, to be healthy. And then at the end of the day, it's what are you grateful for that happened today, being one side of the coin. But then the other side of the coin is like, if you're doing it with a partner, there's studies that have shown that like how the frontal cortex is really fired up if you say not just only that, but you say, I'm grateful that you made me our morning tonic. I'm grateful that you made our evening tonic. I made our miso soup in the morning, or like, and anything else that's just sweet. And so it's just like by honoring that person, it's just like what it can do in terms of the neuroscience is supported is really amazing. I think the other thing that if people just in another super simple way is like just to move your body in some form. If you can do like 5 minutes of yoga that you can find on YouTube for free, that would be amazing. The other thing that's really beautiful is like the cold water, so cold shower, which is the same as me going in the sea every morning. So it's like if you're in the shower, but then the last 2 minutes, just turn it to cold, start with 10 seconds and then work your way up to 20 seconds and so on. And just do what you can. There's no pressure, just do what you can. But you just start to shake in the shower and you're just getting the chi and the blood flow just moving through your body. And like, honestly, just between that, it's just such an amazing way. I always think it's like the way you start the morning is the way you start your day. And it's also like, if you think of how, like what we take into our consciousness just before bed is what runs through the night. So I never look at the news or I never look at anything triggering until I've done my morning routine. And then I've done my evening routine and then I go to bed. So it's just like such a healthy, like framework to sort of bookend every day and just do what you can. And then like you have to roll with the waves.
Right. In the middle of the day. I love this. This is so good. When I turn the cold on, I just sing because that just helps me get through it.
Yeah.
Get the top of my lungs.
Just shake, move so that you're like a little distracted. Yeah, it's good.
You're such a delight. You're so down to earth. You're so ethereal all at the same time. It's like you have this grounded spiritual wisdom, a beautiful blend. It is just a delight to know you, to receive your gifts. I look forward to, I'm going to book some more sessions because I didn't reveal any of this to all of you listeners, but you all know the story about me and my son and where things are going. But Pearly was very supportive in supporting us energetically. And I look forward, by the time we have our next session what will have unfolded, because I know the inside creates the outside. And I know the energetic world, emotional, mental, spiritual, is so real, powerful, and needed to be honored and tended to. tended to, where there are all the places where we need to have a cry and have the trauma integrated. It makes transformational difference in people's lives. I've witnessed it in my own practice. I've witnessed it as a recipient of your gifts. So so all of you, what I'd like you to do, thank you for being with us. There's going to be a special offer if you'd like to have a session with Pearly. I'll have the link in the show notes, as well as her website, manderly.org. That's going to be in the show notes as well. And then in completion, I imagine something has been awakened in you, maybe triggered in you, maybe inspired in you. I'd like you to just take 5 minutes after this podcast and go put your feet into the earth, jump in the sea if you're lucky enough to do so, or walk in the meadows and just listen to what your body has allowed to speak up to, or whisper from this conversation, and honor what your body needs, your soul needs, your heart needs. And thank you for being with us and allowing us to love you with this beautiful conversation. How would you like to complete, my love?
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, it's been such a lovely organic flow. I mean, the other thing I would say is that I also offer free 15-minute call to anyone that wants to just connect, ask me any questions to see how I can tune and support them. And then I'm always so happy to guide. So that's just the other resource tool. My beloved and I also support couples in a very beautiful way. So yeah, just if any of that resonates, it was always such a privilege to support and help people in a meaningful way. So yeah.
Ah, beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, I can imagine coming and doing a workshop and doing the martial arts in the morning and jumping in the ocean and being around a couple that does the work. What a gift. What a gift that would be. The space you hold. Yeah, thank you. All right. We love you. Thanks for being with us for another episode of Intimate Conversations, where we go deeper into our intimate world. I love you.
See you next week on Intimate Conversations. Get out there and make love to life. Here it is. The sun came through. I loved this conversation with Pearly. Please reach out to her. She has a beautiful offer for viewers and listeners of Intimate Conversations. Thank you, Pearly, so much for your generosity. Please follow her. Please also rate, review, and subscribe to Intimate Conversations if you have not yet. It allows the algorithm to do its magic and for more of you to be able to, more people to be able to see this conversation. And also please forward it to this episode to someone who you really believe would be moved and nourished and supported by this conversation. And lastly, if who I am and what I provide with clients in the realm of intimacy and relationship with yourself, your body, with your beloved, with the divine, and especially the work with psychedelics that I do as well, I would be honored to see you in Patreon, The Intimate World, or in my calendar for an Intimacy Breakthrough Experience call. There is a scholarship. You can find it in the show notes as well. If this community that I've developed over these decades feels like home, we would love to join you. Yeah, so grateful that this podcast, 14 years, allows me to meet such incredible people like Pearly. Pearly, thank you for the gift that you are to me, because it's paying it forward through me to my beautiful clients. And I'm so grateful for you, sister. Until we get to hug in person, all of you viewers of Intimate Conversations, I love you with all my heart. And the last little bit of the sunset. All my love.